Millionaire in despair without a translator. Until the cleaning lady's shocking reveal at 3 a.m. In a lavish mansion nestled on the hills, billionaire Zachary Stokes crouched in his dimly lit office, his heart racing. The clock ticked ominously, counting down to midnight. The walls were lined with dark mahogany and framed portraits that seemed to whisper secrets from the past. Suddenly, a power outage plunged him into an abyss of darkness. Shadows danced around him as he felt a tight knot in his stomach. He was trapped, alone, devoid of the comfort of fluent conversation. His mind spiraled with thoughts of his upcoming business deal, where understanding was everything. Without a translator, his empire was at risk. In that moment of despair, he heard a distant echo, a soft shuffling. It was almost ghost-like in its approach. Was it paranoia? Or was there truly someone lurking in the depths of his opulent prison? Each creak of the old floorboards rattled his nerves, the air thick with uncertainty. Just then, his cleaning lady, Isabel, wandered in, wrenching the door open with a quiet creak. He had barely acknowledged her presence before. But now, at this hour, she seemed more than just an employee. She almost appeared like an apparition, a mysterious figure in a house of darkness. "Are you all right, sir?" Her voice emerged soft but steady, laced with a peculiar calm that made the tension around them almost palpable. There was something strange in her gaze, an intensity that felt like she was harboring an untold secret. Could she be the key to solving his communication crisis? As he shook off his shock, a sudden wave of desperation rippled through him. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Zachary could feel a lump rise in his throat as he desperately searched for the right words. Suddenly, Isabel stepped closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "You don't need to worry about the deal. I can help." The air thickened with tension. His heart raced faster. What did she mean? Who was she really? And just like that, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating her face. But what he saw sent a chill down his spine. Her expression shifted, revealing something far more sinister than just kindness. His breathing quickened, and an icy panic gripped him. What was she hiding? What was the truth behind this mysterious cleaning lady at 3 a.m.? Zachary felt every muscle in his body tense, his instincts screaming at him to flee. But where would he go? This mansion felt like a gilded cage. Isabel studied him closely, her eyebrows knitting together as if she was weighing his reaction. The sudden illumination revealed not just her face but the subtle shadows clutching at her form, giving her a stranger's aura. "What do you mean, help?" he managed to choke out, his throat dry as sandpaper. Around them, the room was saturated with suspense, thickening the air. Isabel glanced around, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're in danger, Mr. Stokes. The deal, it's not just business. There are people who don't want you to succeed." The words sliced through the air like a knife, and he felt the blood drain from his face. "What are you talking about?" Panic bubbled within him. His mind raced. Was this some sort of elaborate ruse? "Who are you?" Her lips curled up in a faint, enigmatic smile. "It's not what I am, but what I know that matters." She took a step closer, the vulnerability he hadn't noticed before swirling with the fierceness of her conviction. "I used to work in the world of finance. I overheard discussions, plans that might put you in jeopardy. They don't want you getting that deal." The weight of her claim hit him like a sledgehammer. It wasn't just about communication. Lives hung in the balance, his included. "Why would you tell me this?" he asked, needing to understand her motives. "Because I'm tired of being invisible," she answered, raising her chin defiantly. "And you think you can buy your way through life just because you have money. But power can be fleeting. Sometimes, knowledge is the greatest asset." Zachary's heart raced, caught between disbelief and a burgeoning sense of hope. She wasn't just an ordinary cleaning lady. She was a woman aware of the dangerous game he was involved in. "So what do we do?" He pressed onward, desperation turning to determination. Isabel's expression sharpened. "We need to gather information. They won't see it coming. But we have to be careful. They have eyes everywhere. Her fervor ignited a spark inside him that he hadn't felt in years, a sense of urgency, of action. Without warning, the lights flickered again, momentarily dimming as a thunderstorm echoed outside, rattling the windows. Shadows stretched longer, filling the room with a sense of foreboding. "We're running out of time," she said, glancing toward the door. "They'll know I'm here soon. It must be tonight." Zachary felt the world shrink to that moment, a single choice poised to catapult him into danger. Could he trust this woman who had popped into his life at the most unexpected hour? But he quickly understood the stakes. If they failed, he could lose everything. "What is the first step?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and fear. "You need to find my old contacts. They have information on the cartel that's backing your competition. But get ready. This is only the beginning. Trust will be tested, and you're in for a world of trouble." As she stepped back, the tension thickening, he couldn't shake the feeling that every moment further took them down a spiral with no way out. Just then, a loud bang echoed from the hallway, followed by hurried footsteps approaching the door. Zachary's breath caught in his throat. "Hide," Isabel hissed, urgency palpable in her voice. Who was coming? Were they already too late? The door handle rattled violently, and time itself seemed to freeze as they braced for what lay beyond. The door swung open with a creak that reverberated through the room, drowning out the rumble of thunder outside. Zachary barely had time to process what he saw before adrenaline surged through him. A figure stood menacingly in the doorway, silhouetted against the flickering hallway light, a tall man in a dark coat, his face shadowed but his intentions clear. Isabel yanked Zachary back behind the ornate couch. Their breaths caught in their throats, punctuated by the steady thump of their hearts. The intruder stepped inside, scanning the room with hawk-like precision. Each passing second felt like an eternity, and all Zachary could do was grip Isabel's arm, feeling her tremble under his touch. "Where are you?" The voice echoed, low and gravelly. It felt like a dagger cutting through the tension. "I know you're here." Zachary glanced at Isabel, his stomach churning with fear. "What do we do?" he whispered, panic bubbling to the surface. "Wait," she mouthed, eyes wide, her every muscle tense. As if sensing the urgency, the intruder took a few deliberate steps forward. Zachary had to act. He looked around frantically, searching for anything he could use, any means of defense. His heart raced, fear twisted into a primal urge to protect himself and Isabel. His eyes landed on a heavy glass vase sitting on the corner table. He reached quietly, holding his breath, just as a blur of movement caught his eye. The intruder was now closer, almost to the couch. Zachary's heart pounded harder. It was now or never. He grabbed the vase, feeling its weight in his hand. In that moment, it didn't feel like a simple object, but rather a lifeline. With an instinct to strike, he braced himself, but before he could move, their eyes connected, Isabel's wide with terror, his wild with uncertainty. Suddenly, the intruder froze mid-step, his gaze shifting elsewhere. A cruel grin spread across his face as if he was privy to some dark amusement. "You think you can hide, Isabel? You'll regret this." Zachary's grip tightened around the vase, his knuckles white. Who was this man? The uncertainty pressed on him like a vice. "You're making a mistake, Dos Santos," Isabel spat out, her voice no longer trembling but edged with a steely resolve. "You have no idea what you're getting into." Dos Santos. The name centered in Zachary's mind like a shaker of salt on a wound. He had heard whispers of powerful players in the shadows, and this was clearly one of them. "The only mistake is thinking you could slip out from under me." Dos Santos took another half step, the shadows deepening around him. "I've waited too long for this moment." Zachary shot Isabel a questioning look, searching for clarity amid the chaos. Her eyes flickered with fear, but also a determination that mirrored his own. Evidently, this wasn't just about business, this was personal for her. He could feel the tension electric in the air, a dangerous spark that whispered of impending violence. "Now," Isabel breathed, as if sensing the shifting tides. "Distract him." Zachary stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hey," he shouted, brandishing the vase awkwardly between them. "What?" Dos Santos sneered, clearly not expecting any sort of challenge. Zachary's mind raced. He had no plan, just the primal instinct to survive. He hurled the vase across the room, shattering it against the far wall to create a distraction. Pieces of glass glittered like broken stars on the floor. His pulse thundered, every beat a countdown. As Dos Santos turned, momentarily captivated by the chaos, Isabel lunged forward. Zachary felt his heart soar, but then plummet. Had they just unleashed hell? Go! Isabel shouted, motioning to the door as adrenaline surged through them both. But as they dashed for the exit, not only was the door shut, but in an instant he sensed the weight of eyes upon him from the shadows. The question hung in the air like thick smoke: could they truly escape? Follow me, Isabel called, her voice carrying urgency wrapped in hope. Zachary wasn't sure they'd make it, but he grasped onto the bond forming between them, the shared fear, igniting a flame of determination inside. Every second stretched unbearably as they raced down the dimly lit corridor, desperation urging them forward. Little did they know, the storm outside paled in comparison to the tempest brewing within the mansion. Were they truly free, or had they just stepped from one danger into another? As the door slammed behind them, a chilling laugh echoed through the mansion, reverberating like a haunting reminder that the night was far from over. They sprinted through the dim corridor, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the old wood panels. Each step felt precarious, the shadows shifting like a predator waiting to pounce. The mansion loomed around them, a labyrinth of secrets and danger. Is there another exit? Zachary gasped, struggling to keep pace with Isabel. Through the kitchen, she pointed to a doorway at the end of the hall. It leads to a back door. Without hesitation, they veered towards the kitchen and pushed through the heavy door. The smell of dust and aged wood filled Zachary's lungs as they entered. Faded tiles crunched beneath their feet, and a flickering bulb hung precariously over a worn-out table. Dishes piled in the sink, as if abandoned in a hurry, an eerie reminder of the life once lived here. Isabel dashed to a back door and yanked it open, revealing a narrow alley. The night air hit them like a cold slap, but there was a fleeting sense of relief. Are you okay? Zachary turned to Isabel, noticing her pale face, beads of sweat forming on her brow. I will be if we get out of here, she replied, her voice raw. But we need to move. Just as they stepped out, a sharp sound pierced the stillness, a thud followed by a low curse. They exchanged a panicked glance. Dos Santos was on their trail. Run! Isabel shouted, her insistent voice driving Zachary toward the alley's end. They sprinted, adrenaline blurring the line between caution and sheer survival. The heavy raindrops began to pour, slamming into the pavement like tiny missiles, masking the sounds of pursuit. Where do we go now? He panted, glancing over his shoulder, half expecting the shadow of Dos Santos to surge forward. There, Isabel pointed to a wrought iron fence surrounding a manicured lawn. If we can get over that, we can reach the street. They reached the fence and scrambled up the side, rain soaking them, feet slipping on the slick metal. Zachary felt a surge of strength, but it was Isabel who reached the top first. Just as she swung her leg over, a dark figure burst into the alley. Isabel! Dos Santos roared. Zachary's heart sank. He propelled himself up and over the fence just in time to hear Isabel's terrified gasp. She landed awkwardly on the other side, but there was no room for pain now. They dashed through the yard, frantic to put distance between them and the nightmare behind. Then, just as they cleared the lawn, a sharp crack echoed through the air, a gunshot. Keep running, Zachary shouted, shoving Isabel forward, heart racing. They stumbled into the shadows of the street, navigating through the darkness. Where do we go? Isabel's voice was barely a whisper, drowning beneath the pounding rain. Anywhere but here. We need to vanish, get to safety. He glanced around, his mind racing. They couldn't go home, that much was clear. Not with Dos Santos hunting them. Wait. Isabel stopped dead in her tracks. What about Leona? She'll be alone at the hotel. The thought hit Zachary hard, his chest tightening. They had to protect her. You're right, he said, determination flooding back. We need to get her out of there. Together, they turned toward the nearby hotel. A single flickering streetlight cast a shaky glow over the entrance, illuminating the trepidation in their eyes. As they approached, a shadow shifted outside the hotel gates. A figure darted into an alley across the street. Zachary squinted, heart thudding. Is that Dos Santos? Isabel snapped, voice clipped with urgency. They veered off. eyes locked on the figure weaving through the street. It was no longer about escaping. It was about facing this monster. Come on. We can't let him get to Leona. Without another word, they plunged deeper into the shadows, intent on tracking the man who had turned their lives upside down. But what awaited them at the end of the alley could change everything. Zachary felt the weight of the night settling onto his shoulders, the chill of danger and unresolved fear screaming that they were not alone. They were not just chasing Dos Santos. They were walking headfirst into his dark web, and there was no turning back now. Could they save Leona before it was too late? Or had they just put her in even greater danger? The alley twisted ahead, shadows thickening as they pressed in. Isabel's hand gripped Zachary's arm, her touch firm yet trembling. The fear radiating from her was almost palpable, and he could feel it mingling with his own anxious sweat. "Where is he?" she whispered, scanning the darkness. "Stay close," he whispered back. "We've got to be smart about this." They moved in silence, peering around crates that littered the narrow corridor, their breaths mingling with the rain. Each click of a distant heel sent jarring shivers racing down their spines. The hotel was barely 20 feet ahead, but it felt like miles. With Dos Santos lurking somewhere in the shadows, Zachary caught a glimpse of a figure diving behind a dumpster, heart racing at the sudden movement. "Did you see that?" he hissed. Isabel nodded, eyes wide. "It was him," she said, panic creeping into her voice. "Let us go around." Zachary gestured toward an alternate route that hugged the wall of the hotel. They maneuvered between the bricks, their bodies tense as they crouched low, hearts pounding like war drums in their chests as they rounded the corner. They spotted the hotel entrance dimly lit, yet oddly inviting. But their sense of sanctuary was short-lived. They could see a flicker of Dos Santos up ahead, pacing beneath the streetlight, checking the door, watching, waiting. "We can't go in that way," he murmured, frustration gnawing at his resolve. Suddenly, a cry pierced the night. "Help!" The sound was high-pitched and filled with dread. It cut through the storm like a knife, and both Zachary and Isabel froze. "Leona!" Isabel shouted, her face flooding with terror. That came from the back. Without even considering their safety, they sprinted toward the sound, heartbeats synchronized with desperation. The back entrance was unguarded, slightly ajar, beckoning them in. "Go," Zachary urged, pushing Isabel inside. The hallway inside was cloaked in gloom. They moved swiftly, pressing their backs against the walls, ears perked for any sign of trouble. Another scream echoed, gravelly and indignant now. "Leona!" Isabel called out, but the only answer was silence that felt heavy with dread. They rounded another corner, and there she was slumped against the wall, wide-eyed, tears streaking her cheeks. In that moment, relief surged through Zachary like a lifeline. "Leona!" Isabel rushed to her side, but Zachary's instincts kicked in. "Wait," he warned, scanning the surroundings. "What happened?" She barely had time to respond. Heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway, all too familiar. Dos Santos was closing in. "Quick, we have to hide." Zachary pulled Isabel and Leona into a nearby utility closet, heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst through his chest. They huddled against the wall, breathless, as the footsteps grew closer. "What are you doing here?" Leona managed to whisper, trembling. Zachary could feel Isabel's fear deepening. "We came to get you, but we need to be quiet. Dos Santos is right outside." "Right outside," Leona whispered, her voice shaking. Then, a sound caught Zachary's attention, a subtle scraping. Something was moving at the closet door. His breath caught in his throat as he watched it swing slightly, just enough to reveal a sliver of light. A voice drifted through. "You think you can evade me? I will find you, all of you." It was cold, menacing, and full of satisfaction. There was a sickening twist in Zachary's gut. "We can't stay here. We have to move. Now." As they inched toward the back of the closet, adrenaline ignited their desperation. But before they could formulate a plan, the door swung open violently, and Dos Santos stood there, eyes blazing like a predator spotting its prey. "What a surprise," he sneered, stepping forward to block their escape. "You thought you could outrun me?" Zachary felt as if the ground had dropped out beneath him. They were trapped, and the devil was smiling. Then came a sound like thunder. Another gunshot rang out, the air thick with chaos. "Run!" Isabel cried out, shoving past Dos Santos as the shot had distracted him. In the turmoil, a figure emerged. clad in darkness, emerging from a side hallway. A glinting object ready at the ready. Zachary's heart raced. He could barely process it as he heard the echo of footsteps behind them, and then, in that instant, chaos erupted into sharp clarity. Was this savior friend or foe? Get out! The new figure shouted, eyes glinting with urgency. What fate awaited them just beyond this clash? Would they escape or come face to face with a greater horror? The chaos unfolded in a blur. Zachary barely had time to think as they burst from the closet, hearts racing, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The air felt electric, charged with terror and confusion. Go, now. The newcomer propelled them forward, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. Zachary and Isabel grabbed Leona, pulling her along as they sprinted down the dimly lit corridor. The figure in the shadows stayed close behind, a hulking presence that shifted with urgency. They reached a set of stairs, the worn wooden steps creaking underfoot like the last breaths of a dying giant. Isabel stumbled, but Zachary caught her, urgency coursing through him. We can't stop. Keep moving, he urged, each word a pounding reminder that they were not safe yet. Just as they rounded the bend, another gunshot ricocheted through the air. It was a sound that would haunt him in nightmares. Zachary cast a quick glance back and saw Dos Santos, a figure of malevolence, his face twisted in rage. Where are you going? Dos Santos taunted, his voice echoing ominously, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Faster, the figure commanded, pushing them toward the next floor. We need to get out of sight. They reached the landing and turned a corner, ducking into another hallway more shadowed than the last. There were scattered doors, and they chose one, bursting through it and slamming it shut behind them. Panting heavily, they leaned against the door, listening to the rapid thumping of their hearts and the distant demands of Dos Santos echoing down the hall. It felt as if the walls were closing in around them. Who the hell are you? Zachary demanded, barely able to catch his breath. The stranger was tall, cloaked in shadows, mysterious and menacing all at once. Just someone who can help, he replied, his voice gravelly yet steady. There was urgency in his tone, yet it held an undercurrent of something else. Fear? Relief? Help us how? Isabel's voice quivered, her eyes darting toward the door. I know the layout of this place. I've seen him here before, the figure explained, his eyes flaring with determination. I can get you out, but you have to trust me. Trust. It hung in the air like a thick fog. Zachary exchanged a glance with Isabel, then Leona. Is your life worth the risk? Was the nagging question echoing in his mind. Show us, he said, forcing confidence into his voice that he didn't truly feel. The stranger nodded, glancing back at the door before moving deeper into the room. He pointed toward a small window, its frame barely intact, but wide enough for a slim body to fit through. Out that way. We need to move quickly before he finds us. He began to clear debris near the window, sweat beading on his brow as he worked. Leona's eyes widened with fear. What if he catches us? The figure paused, a shadow passing over his features. If he catches us, it's over. You can't let that happen. Zachary felt a tightening in his chest. This was true. They couldn't think about the odds. They had to act. Is everything okay in there? A voice rang out from behind them, a friendly yet eerie tone. Zachary's stomach twisted. They had been careless, and now they were cornered. Shit. Zachary cursed under his breath. It's Dos Santos, the stranger hissed, urgency rising. We have no time. The door rattled ominously, a stark reminder that they were on borrowed time. The figure stood beside the window, fear and determination coiling in the air like a taut wire. Go. One at a time. I'll cover your back, he urged. You might not get another chance. Zachary's breath caught in his throat. Leona went first, a terrified look etched across her features as she climbed toward freedom. Next, the stranger snapped, urgency fueling his commands. Isabel followed, her hands shaking as she clung to the edge of stability. Zachary took a final glance behind before squeezing through the window, the outside air hitting him like a refreshing wave even as panic lurked close. But before he could even find his footing on the other side, a weighty realization unfurled within him. What lay waiting in the dark might be far worse than what they were fleeing from. Get down, the stranger hissed, drawing a glinting weapon from under his jacket. They're right behind us. Zachary's blood ran cold, the haunting sound of footsteps drawing closer. Were they truly safe, or merely exchanging one danger for another? And then, from behind them, came a chilling laugh, the kind that pierced the soul and echoed in the bleakness of the stormy night. "Did you really think you could escape?" Dos Santos taunted, savoring the moment like a predator toying with its prey. As shadows loomed, Zachary's heart raced. With every thump of his pulse, questions exploded in his mind. Was there nowhere they could hide? And did the man who claimed to help them possess answers? Or were they relinquishing control altogether? The night stretched around them, filled with invisible dangers that threatened to swallow them whole. What choice would they make as the darkness closed in? The moment they dropped to the ground, Zachary felt the chill of fear race through him. The alley smelled of damp earth and something metallic, almost familiar. Without thinking, he nudged Leona and Isabel, who were still reeling from the panic. Their breaths were shallow, hearts hammering in their chests. He shot a quick glance at the stranger, still crouched, weapon poised, but his face was a mask of concentration. "Keep quiet," he whispered harshly, scanning the shadows. The footsteps seemed to thud louder now, echoing against the walls like some death knell. A flickering streetlight painted a flickering shape across the alley, and for a moment, everything went still. Each second stretched as time hung heavily with the promise of violence. "Do you know where we're going?" Isabel whispered, her eyes wide, fear written across her face. Zachary could only shake his head, feeling the weight of desperation settle on his shoulders. "No idea," he admitted, his voice barely a murmur even beneath the cover of night. The stranger held up a finger to his lips, then gestured toward an opening down the darkened side of the alley. "This way," he murmured, his expression hardening with grave determination. With little choice, they crawled onward, slipping through the opening into what appeared to be an abandoned building. The air inside was stagnant, thick with dust and an unsettling silence. The walls were peeling, and the floors creaked under their feet as they navigated through the barely lit interior. "What if he finds us?" Leona breathed, her voice trembling. The stranger paused. "If he finds us, it'll be too late." "We can't think that way," he said, tone heavy with urgency. They were more than just being hunted. They were up against a smiling monster with a penchant for brutality. Zachary clenched his fists, anger beginning to swell within him. This battle wasn't just about survival, it was personal now. Every decision felt weighted, but he needed to maintain control of the spiraling chaos around him. They reached a staircase leading down into a cramped basement, the air thick and moist. "This way," the stranger insisted, more command than suggestion, as he led them down the narrow steps. The darkness enveloped them, each step a reminder that they were just inches away from certain danger. As they entered the basement, the stranger got down low, motioning for them to do the same. Zachary could hear muffled voices and low laughter above them. The sound of Dos Santos' cruel jokes echoed through the floorboards. The sickening sense that they were being played with sent shivers down Zachary's spine. "Do you have a plan?" Zachary managed to whisper, urgency blending hope with despair. "Just hold tight for a moment," the stranger replied, scanning their surroundings. "He won't come down here. Not unless he is sure we're trapped." But as minutes passed, the muffled laughter grew closer, and dread pooled in Zachary's stomach. "What if we're just waiting for a trap to spring?" he thought bitterly. Then suddenly, the door above them creaked, and the laughter stopped. "Boys, we've lost them." Dos Santos's voice floated through the air, dripping with sickening glee. "They can't hide forever. Are you ready to bring in the hounds? They always know how to sniff out the desperate." Zachary's breath caught. Hounds. The words seared through him, crystallizing the gravity of their situation. They weren't just fighting for their lives against a man. Now, they were facing something far more sinister. "Let us get out," the stranger murmured, urgency igniting in his eyes. "It's now or never." Before Zachary could move, the floor creaked ominously, and shadows loomed at the top of the stairs. Was this the end they had dreaded so much? "Are you ready?" the stranger asked, his voice low but charged with adrenaline. Zachary's heart thundered in his ears. Was this really how it would end? Or was there still a chance, a single thread to grasp in this swirling chaos? Now, as the door creaked open further, they'd have to decide, would they stand and fight, or flee into the unknown. And as the figure at the door stepped into the dim light, revealing a chillingly familiar face. Zachary's world twisted with disbelief. "No, it can't be," he whispered, the ground shifting beneath him yet again. Why did fate seem to gain such a cruel sense of humor? Zachary's heart raced as the figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing a face that carved its mark on his memory like a jagged shard of glass. It was Marcus, his older brother thought to be dead for years. A ghost come back to haunt him, a nightmare fighting to break free from the past. "Zach." Marcus's voice was a soft dredge of disbelief. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that Zachary had never seen before, a mix of recognition and tension, like two strings pulled taut about to snap. But the laughter of Dos Santos's henchmen echoed from above, reminding Zachary of the urgency clenching at his throat. "What are you doing here?" he whispered, doing his best to remain hidden. "I didn't have a choice," Marcus stammered, glancing nervously at the staircase. "They've been watching me. I thought I could keep you safe by staying away. I didn't know you'd gotten mixed up in this." The shadows seemed to dance in the dim basement. Fear prickled at the corners of Zachary's mind. This was not how it was supposed to be. Reunions weren't meant to be shrouded in the dread of death. "Safe," Zachary hissed, anger slicing through the tension. "You thought staying away would keep me safe when you never told me the truth?" "Enough," the stranger interjected, his voice sharp as a knife. He shifted, positioning himself closer to the brothers, the tension in the air almost tangible. "We don't have time. Whatever this is, it has to wait. He is coming." A heavy silence followed, each heartbeat louder than the last. Zachary could feel the absence of air around him. Memories crashed into him. His brother had abandoned him once. Could he trust him again? "Who is coming?" Isabel whispered, panic sparking in her tone. "Dos Santos and his men," the stranger said, scanning the room frantically for a means of escape. "We need to get out before the hounds find us. They'll tear us apart." Zachary looked at Marcus, whose eyes held desperation. "You were supposed to be dead," he spat, the words thick with betrayal. "I thought I was." Marcus snapped back, his voice breaking. "I thought it was over when they got to me. But it was all a setup." Zachary's mind reeled. Everything he knew about his brother was spiraling away like smoke in the wind. "This isn't a game. We can't trust you." Suddenly, there was a loud crash from above. The thud of heavy boots and low growls filled the basement. The hounds had arrived. Cold terror gripped Zachary, and he grabbed Leona's arm, pulling her closer. "We have to go now." The stranger pushed them, leading them further into the bowels of the basement, where the darkness tightened like a vice. "Move." They stumbled through the shadows, following echoes of fear as the sound of hounds echoed behind them, those savage beasts trained to hunt. "Zach!" Marcus called out, his voice desperate, vying for his brother's attention. "We can help each other." "Help each other?" Zachary spat, barely restraining his anger. "You helped yourself a long time ago. How can I trust you now? Because I'm not the same man I was." Marcus's voice was raw, genuine. It cut through the panic, and for one agonizing moment, Zachary faltered. But as they reached a dead end, the sounds above faded for just a moment. Hope flickered, but it was quickly snuffed out by the claws of fresh dread. They were trapped. "Think," the stranger urged, eyes darting around, his breathing quickening. "There has to be another way out." And as Zachary glanced around, something on the wall caught his eye, a trapdoor hidden beneath layers of grime and dust. "Here," he shouted, excitement rushing through him like adrenaline, pushing aside his doubts, all while the echo of feral growls sharpened the air. "Help me," he grunted as he and Marcus shoved against the trapdoor. It resisted but finally budged, revealing a narrow space beneath. "Quickly," Isabel urged, her face pale, tinged with the fear of betrayal and the weight of uncertainty as they squeezed in. Zachary looked back one last time at Marcus, still grappling with doubt. Would they truly emerge as allies, or would trust once broken remain forever shattered in darkness? Then, with a final glance, he disappeared into the unknown depths below, the echoing growls nearing ever closer. There they were, heads held high in daunting silence, trapped in an abyss of choices. But the question loomed like a specter above them. Would they confront the horrors that awaited, or would they be devoured by the very darkness they hoped to escape? The trapdoor slammed shut behind them, sealing off the light and plunging them into a murky void. Zachary's heart thundered in his chest. He could hear the faint scritching of claws above and the growls of the hounds mixed with the sounds of the men hunting them. It was the kind of fear that rattled bones, stealing breath. "Where are we?" Isabel asked, voice trembling as she pressed close to Zachary's side. He could feel her warmth, a fragile beacon of comfort against the chill creeping around them. "Listen," the stranger said softly, cutting through the panic. "We're in the old sewer system. It connects to the sewers running beneath the city. We'll be safer down here." "A sewer?" Marcus echoed, disbelief marking his features. "What kind of escape route is that?" Zachary's mind raced. He could feel a storm of emotions swirling inside him. Marcus's return was supposed to fix everything, but now it felt like their past was a ticking time bomb. "Just lead us," Zachary forced out, his voice steadying. "We just need to move." The darkness was thick, nearly tangible as they scrambled forward, the dampness of the walls cold against their skin. There were no lights down here, just the faint sounds of dripping water and the distant echoes of the hounds still above ground. "So what's the plan?" Marcus's voice was low, almost distracted. "We can't just run forever. We need to find a way to the surface," the stranger replied. "We can't stay down here. Dos Santos won't give up. We need to regroup and think." Zachary almost scoffed, but he remained silent. Could they really trust this stranger? A piece of him still wanted to believe in Marcus. But the more his brothers spoke, the more he felt their shared blood was a chain, binding him to betrayal. They turned a corner, and suddenly the air shifted. An unfamiliar smell invaded Zachary's senses, foul, rotten, and alarmingly fresh. The others halted, a collective pause of dread. "What's that?" Isabel whispered, her breath hitching. It's like something is dead," Marcus said, his voice low. Anger flashed in Zachary's chest. Of course, he would say that. The thing was, he had no clue how right he was. They inched forward, careful, scanning the tunnel for any sign of danger. Just as they rounded another bend, freezing cold gripped Zachary's stomach like a vice. There, in the dim light from their flashlight, he glimpsed what appeared to be a figure hunched over, its back turned. "Maybe it's someone who can help?" Isabel suggested, her voice a shaky whisper filled with hope. Zachary was torn. The risk outweighed the unknown. "We should keep moving," he said, but it was too late. Marcus had already stepped closer, curiosity getting the better of him. "Excuse me?" Marcus called. "Are you all right?" The figure suddenly turned around, revealing a face obscured by grime, yet eerily familiar. Zachary's breath hitched in his throat. This was no stranger, it was someone they knew. "Zachary, is that you?" The voice was low but unmistakable, echoing off the damp stone walls like a ghost from the past. "Kathy," Zachary breathed, eyes widening in disbelief. His childhood friend, the girl he'd thought he'd lost along with everything else, emerged from the shadows. "What are you doing here?" she asked, looking just as shocked as they were. "I thought you were gone, didn't anyone tell you?" Zachary's world spun. Had Kathy known the truth all along? Was this the information they needed, or yet another wrench in an already complicated scenario? "Now everyone is chasing us," Marcus replied, glancing behind him nervously. "Not everyone," Kathy hesitated, eyes darting back. "Dos Santos is onto something big. You have to trust me. Business has changed, and I'm here to help." An uneasy truce hung heavily in the air, doubt mixed with a flicker of hope. Zachary fought between trusting this newfound ally or pulling away from the chaos that swirled around them. It felt like a gamble that could cost him everything. But before he could respond, an eerie howl echoed down the tunnel, sending a chill racing down his spine. "Run!" he shouted, and as the footsteps of their pursuers came closer, the only question remaining was whether they would make it out alive and what truths still lay buried in the dark. Panic surged within Zachary as they took off, urgency propelling them forward through the dark, damp tunnels of the sewer system. The eerie howls of the hounds grew closer, echoing off the walls like a sick joke. He raked a hand through his hair, heart pounding like a jackhammer as they pressed onward. Isabel's hand was tightly gripping his, while Marcus and Kathy flanked their sides, shadows rushing alongside them, more like ghosts than the motley crew they had become. "Where are we going?" Isabel gasped, struggling to keep up. The air felt heavy, thick with despair, and the scent of mold and decay clung to them like a second skin. "Just keep running," Zachary urged, his voice strained but steady. His mind flickered with thoughts of Leona. The stakes were higher than any business deal he'd ever pursued. This was personal. He was fighting for his family, for Isabel, for everything that meant anything to him. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared ahead, barely illuminating the darkness. A glimmer of hope ignited in Zachary's chest. "There! We need to reach that light," he shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. They charged forward, desperation clawing at their heels as they heard the growl of the hounds snapping behind them. "What if it's a trap?" Marcus questioned, his voice rife with skepticism. "Better a trap than the jaws of those dogs." Zachary snapped back, not allowing fear to anchor him. The light grew brighter, guiding them like a moth to a flame. The four of them barreled into an opening, bursting forth from the tunnel into a clearing. It was a small, abandoned courtyard overrun with weeds and tall grass. A rusting gate hinted at a way out, but it was locked tight. "Damn it!" Zachary slammed his fist against the gate. Desperation clawed at his throat. The sounds of the hounds echoed closer, their barks filled with menace, almost like a countdown. Kathy rushed to the gate. "Let me try?" She pulled at it, shoving her shoulder against the cold metal. With every tremor of the chain, Zachary felt the tightening grip of time slipping away. "Zach," Isabel's voice murmured, filled with fear. What if this is the end?" "No," he said fiercely. "We're not done yet. Stay back," Kathy shouted, with a newfound resolve. She raised her foot, crashing it against the lock. It rattled, but didn't give way. Zachary stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let us try together," he said, determination surging within him as he joined her. Isabel followed, and soon Marcus stepped up, awkwardly reaching for the rusted iron. "On three," Zachary murmured, shoulders tense, hearts thrumming as one. 1, 2, 3. With a united push, they heaved against the gate, and with a screeching groan, it buckled open. "That's it," Isabel squealed, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "We can make it. Run," Zachary commanded as the hound's howls surged around them like a tidal wave. They sprinted through the gate and out into the night, the rain pouring down, almost cleansing in its coldness. Zachary's lungs burned as they turned down a narrow alleyway, but he could feel adrenaline propelling them forward, fury fueling each stride. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows over the slick pavement. There was no time for hesitation. They turned a corner, heartbeats harmonizing with the rhythmic pounding of rain against pavement. Abruptly, the screen door of a nearby bar slammed open, a figure stumbling out, eyes glazed. "Hey, what is going on?" he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Please, we need help," Zachary yelled, desperation dripping from his words. Recognizing their urgency, the man stepped aside. "Getting quick." They screeched to a halt, the door slamming shut behind them. Inside was a dimly lit sanctuary, filled with muffled laughter and the scent of alcohol. It was a stark contrast to the madness outside. "Stay low," Zachary instructed, his eyes scanning for any sign of danger. "What now?" Isabel breathed, fear making her voice tremble. "We need a plan," Zachary replied, his heart still pounding in his ears. "Dos Santos isn't going to stop. He'll keep coming. After us." Before he could continue, the barred door burst open, making everyone turn. Three imposing figures entered, silhouetted by the neon lights flickering outside. "Where are they?" a voice boomed. It was Dos Santos. Instinctively, Zachary motioned for everyone to stay quiet, hearts racing as Dos Santos' men began sweeping through the crowd, eyes searching. "They're not here," someone called at the bar, fabricating a denial that it was a thin lifeline, one they all clung to with bated breath. "Let us check the back," another henchman suggested, but Dos Santos waved them off. "No time," he growled, anger rumbling like thunder in his chest. "We'll take care of it later." Zachary held on to Isabel tightly. This could be their moment to slip away. "On my count," he whispered, heart racing in his chest. 3, 2, then, like a wave crashing on the shore, it hit. Now, they bolted from their hiding spot, rushing toward the back exit. Zachary's mind was clear. They had to survive. They burst through the door and into the rain-soaked night, adrenaline flooding his veins. "Get to the car," Zachary barked, and they sprinted down the alley, rain pelting like darts against their skin. "Where's Leona?" Isabel cried, panic and guilt flashing in her eyes. We'll get her back, Zachary promised, voice fierce. With every step forward, he felt the weight lifting, the burdens of fear, despair, and betrayal transforming into hope. They were a team now, a mismatched family. As they reached the car, Zachary turned to his brother, who stood panting, confusion etched across his face. You're with us now. No more running. This is our fight. Together, Kathy affirmed, a fierce spark igniting in her gaze. Together, Zachary echoed, determination burning in his chest. Let us end this tonight. And as they drove into the rain-soaked night, the shadows began to lift, a dawning realization spreading before them. They weren't going to let darkness win. Their story wasn't over. Not yet. The end found them, not in surrender, but in unity, a $1 million bond forged in shared despair and rekindled hope, one that wouldn't be easily broken, no matter the danger lurking ahead. Now, as they ventured into the unknown, they knew their fight was far from over. But together, they could face anything. This is not the time to go anywhere. You need to subscribe now to stay updated about the next thrilling journey. Smash that like button to help us grow this family, and flood that comment section with your thoughts and theories. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Your support means everything. Let us keep this story alive together.